What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to ABJ Presents Tornado Tag Halloween Havoc. ABJ, joined here by my co-host BP Burke and our other co-host Lily. What's going on, everybody?
Heyo.
By the way, real quick, shout out to Brian for giving me that view before we went live. I heard my own voice over his over his phone, so that's awesome.
I was going to share, and I go to your page to share, and I was like, "Oh, I should probably turn the volume down."
I just heard my own voice before we went live, and I was like, "Oh, that was me." What's going on, Steven Chambers?
You have the exact opposite reaction to that. I hear my voice, and I just like, I shrivel. And I've had to hear my own voice a lot. I've been doing a lot of editing this week, and it's been like, oh, why do I have to hear myself and watch myself?
Yeah. So, this week in wrestling, I want to kind of do this. I want to make this announcement. I don't know when in November, but definitely starting mid-November into December, we're going to be kind of really ramping up Tornado Tag on this channel. It does the best numbers, and it's something that, because there's so much weekly television, I do like the fact that we're doing this history here. So this is our main course here. Like this channel and these episodes on normally Tuesdays, but now Wednesday are the main entree. This is what we work on. This is what we're doing. These are the main things. But I don't know if we're going to do it every night after shows and maybe make like a little bit of more of a weekly content, like after a NXT or a AEW or whatever it may be. We do like a post show with me and Lily, where we're going to talk more weekly content and modern day stuff. And anytime BP wants to join in, if he's free at a night or he wants to dive in, he's more than welcome to. But we want to start covering more mainstream wrestling, whether it's AEW, WWE, pay-per-views, whatever it may be. They may not be immediately after. Sometimes they'll be live, sometimes they won't. But we're going to be possibly pushing out a lot more daily content, or during the week with Tornado Tag. Also, me and Lily want to, MVP, if he's available, want to start doing more old school show reviews, and we want to do that Camp Leapfrog. So that's going to be coming a lot. This channel was built as a wrestling channel. It's predominantly what we do. I do like the pop culture. I do like the movie reviews. That's going to be, still a thing, but you're going to see a lot more Tornado Tags soon. It just, like I said, it gets the best numbers, best live streams, best engagement. So you're going to see a lot more of that. Hopefully we're both starting, she's starting a new job. With this new job, I get home a little later. So it really varies on how it goes. But maybe if it's not like a post show thing, maybe we do it once a week where we talk about everything we watch throughout the week. We can go that route as well. Who knows? But that being said, we also went to at least probably all of our first NXT pay-per-views, right?
Yeah, I have never been to an NXT show before.
Yeah, so we went to Halloween Havoc in Hershey, Pennsylvania.
We
bought our tickets online. So we bought our tickets online, and I thought we were sitting in the opposite side of the arena. I thought I thought we were hard cam on the other side, away from everything. That's in my opinion. When we bought those tickets, that's where I felt like we picked.
I was like showing you like where the stage was. That's where they were going to be coming out of. Like we were going to be right there.
Yeah, I did not. The way it looked, because the ticket hub was the other way, and it wasn't like we bought them down here. We bought them up there, if that makes sense. Right. And I was like, oh, okay, that's where we're sitting. And then we show up, and I'm like, bro, we're on the stage. Like, we're right here. Like, this
we were right by the stage.
Yeah.
For $25-$30, like they were great. There's realistically, Hershey Park does not have a bad seat in it.
No,
there's really nowhere you can see. I mean, you could have gotten further to our right, and you weren't going to see any of the entrance. Like, you wouldn't have seen the screen or anything like that. Weird note, sorry, but this is kind of strange. But during the show, I'm watching it on the Tron, and the lights coming off the stage were ice blue the whole show. But while we were sitting, they were just bright white lights.
Yeah.
It was messing with my head. I don't know why, but it was fucking with my head. I'm like, why are they blue there? But because they didn't go through the gel yet for us.
Yep. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like,
fun time though. Fun show.
Great show. Did that show make you more intrigued to check out NXT?
Yeah, well, I've been checking out NXT fairly regularly since I went to the CW, knowing I was probably going to Halloween Havoc. I'm like, I should probably come in knowing some stuff about it, and so I did. I've been watching it since the debut on CW, and and I came away thinking that I came in thinking some people in NXT were stars, and I came out kind of knowing just from the eye test that these people are stars. Like you cannot see Obafemi live and not be like, this guy's going places.
Oh yeah, for sure.
This
Dude,
guy's
he did
going
some
places.
stuff. He did some stuff that legit. Me and Paul, and now I feel like I wasn't really seeing your reactions because you were behind us, but I was sitting
Yeah.
directly next to Paul Bowe, and there was stuff that happened on that pay-per-view that me and Paul flinched at, and that's not easy to do. You know what I mean? Like when
Right.
Obafemi was swinging that fucking crowbar, we're like, holy, like,
Facts.
yo, that's a lot of man to be swinging. If that's a real crowbar,
I'm
Yikes.
guessing. I'm hoping that it's rubber because I know Sting used to use rubber bats.
yeah,
I'm hoping it's like a rubber crowbar. But who knows? Who knows what they do there?
Yeah, that's fucking
But
crazy. But
he's very impressive. Julie and Stephanie Vaquer, incredibly impressive.
Are you shocked of how much more Stephanie is over than Julia, at least with the Hershey crowd?
Not after seeing them both wrestle. Not that Julie didn't turn in a good performance, but Vaquer and Roxanne had really, really good chemistry. And I don't know if it's
Cora Jade got really good too.
Yeah, I think she was obviously the fourth of the four, but yeah, she didn't look lost. She didn't look completely out of place.
She looked great. Like their timing was really, really towards the end a little bit, but they were gassed.
Getting tired.
They were gassed. They were putting out. They were at 1,000,000 miles a minute. That match was really, really good. Really
and I think Julia's going to be just fine. Watching that NXT from last night, I thought, oh wow, Zarya is going to be a big star too. Like they've got an embarrassment of riches in that women's division in NXT. I would put it up against any women's division. Yeah, Raw, SmackDown, AEW.
Super cool how Jack Jojo Siwa got. That's super
right.
Cool.
Yeah, I know. And she's Australian now.
Yeah. She danced her way into those muscles. So that was dude, Tony D'Angelo won me over. I wasn't a huge Tony D'Angelo fan. That was a fun match. I genuinely enjoyed that match.
I thought that match was very good. I think Trick Williams is an absolute star as well. Trick Williams is he's got such a great presence.
Ethan Page was made for NXT. I love him. I'm a huge Ethan Page fan. He's one of those people who left AEW and they said he was going to NXT. I go, that's the best place for him. He's gonna be a superstar there. Like he's gonna dominate there. Yeah, and he's been doing fantastic. Chase, I thought Ridge and Chase was gonna be a snooze fest.
Yeah,
I went to go buy a beer for it. Great match.
Mm-hmm.
Great match.
I loved his sweater.
Can you hear us?
Pleasantly surprised with that match.
There's a big delay.
Yeah. Might be having
you hear us, right?
An issue here.
You might have to
I can absolutely hear you.
Yeah, you might have to log out and log back in because I feel like you're not hearing us for like another 3 seconds or longer. Yeah, he just logged out. Yeah. All right. So who is this and what have he done with ABJ? What? I think there's some good stuff going on in NXT. I love Fallon Henley. I've been high on her since I started watching. So I'm happy she's a champ now. As we were walking into the arena, we're kind of walking around the concourse, and Lily started a conversation with a guy dressed as Orange Cassidy, and then got stuck in said conversation.
Yeah. That happened.
And then we were walking through, and I was kind of like trying to walk, like not away from him. I'm not trying to be mean, but like I feel like
just
we've had
trying to get through the crowd.
We had our conversation.
It was. He was having a good time. He was having good conversation.
Yes.
It was like he wasn't grasping that like we were trying to keep walking.
Yeah, and then like we were sitting in the same spot or something like that, or going in the same direction.
Yeah.
But as we're walking through, we're kind of stuck because we're chatting with this guy, and all of a sudden I kind of look over and I see Trick, and then like I kind of like head nod at him, and then the rest of like everyone else like Trick, whoop die Trick, and then I was like I thought I seen the girl with him.
Also, yeah,
I didn't know who the girl was until she seen her title, and then but I didn't really know the roster's name.
What's her name?
I don't remember.
Jeez.
Kalani Jordan.
It was
Kalani
Kalani.
Jordan.
Yeah, it was Kalani Jordan.
The girl who lost her belt.
They were literally walking with each other, and he's like, "Who's that?" He's like, "It's no. What did you say? You're like, that's not Lash," and I was like, "No, it's not. It's Kalani."
I definitely knew it wasn't Lash because I would have.
You don't.
I would have looked a little longer. Lash Legend.
Oh,
it's a lot of woman. I like it. She be whooping that Trick. And that's who I honestly thought she would have walked in with, because aren't they dating in real life, Lash and Trick Williams?
They may be.
But why would they walk in together if that's not storyline?
Because they were like kind of walking into the building to kind of just get into the building. When you watch them on TV walking into the building, that's not when they actually walk.
I'm aware, but that's what I'm saying. Like, they both walked in as champions. Why wouldn't the champions walk in together?
Because the champions just don't hang out. That's not.
All right. I mean,
it should be.
Yeah. Imagine that. Like, you have to be friends now.
Yeah. The belt, the championship belt has one of those like
best friend
magnetic locks thing where you just put the belt up to the door and it opens up the door.
We should put them on our belts. We should put like.
Could have a mag lock door now.
We'll do it in June.
Yeah. Yeah, but anything else about the show that stood out to you?
It wasn't part of the wrestling, but the what's in the box segment with the boogeyman was hilarious.
Yes. Very hilarious. Very when Bianca picked his nose, and then I was like, yo, is she even gonna talk about the fact she picked his nose?
She
just like
fell.
She's like, I picked his nose.
She fell over, like fell backwards when she realized it, was like, oh my gosh, and then fell back and then got up, and she was like, oh my.
You know what I heard happened during that segment? I heard another guy did it, and when he took the box off, he wasn't scared, and then Jim Cornette ran in and slapped him in the face.
Yeah, and then his daughter got signed to NXT, and Cornette got fired.
Yeah, but yeah, overall, I really like the show. I definitely will be checking NXT out more. There's some people I'm interested now. I'm interested to see how the storyline goes.
So here's the question then: what are you watching live next Wednesday? NXT from the ECW arena?
I thought that's tonight.
No, that's next Wednesday.
No, it's next Wednesday because it's instead of Tuesday being election day, right?
Yeah, CW's gonna have
election day. I don't know.
Tuesday.
I don't know why.
CW's gonna have election coverage next Tuesday, so they moved NXT to Wednesday, and it's gonna be head to head with Dynamite.
Got you. I gotta find out where I vote or the voting poll. I have to check my stuff out. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, so I will probably watch AEW live and then NXT back.
Well, they did announce the match we all thought was gonna happen, so yeah.
That was the only worst part of the show, the Bully Ray stuff. The whole time I was like, she's shoehorning himself into a match, and he did.
Well, I think it's more along the lines of they're loading that show up. Like a lot of people expecting Nunzio to be there. Dawn Marie's going to referee a match.
I was at the 2300 Arena when they had a ECW reunion thing, and every member of the ECW locker room got a photo. And guess who they did invite to the photo?
The guy
Bully Ray. Yeah, Bully Ray. The entire ECW roster was like walking around grabbing everybody to take a photo, and I literally watched them walk by Bubba, grab somebody else, and walk back and take a photo.
It happens. Yeah,
no one likes him. He sucks. Dave LaGreca is going to need back surgery in about 3 years for carrying that that man's career to new places.
It was interesting to see LaGreca just struggling not to call him Bully, because they can call him Bubba Ray Dudley in NXT.
Yeah.
And he's still just struggling with and saying Bully half the time.
Yeah. Well, shout out to Dave, because obviously like we're content creators and would like, this guy got to the point where enough people listen to him, and he's one of the top guys in the world, and he's getting opportunities to listen. His guy on his show is getting booked everywhere. Any company, he's like, listen, we have the most listened to wrestling show. We interview both companies, and if you're a host of the show and you're a former wrestler, I could probably get you booked. Dave LaGreca is killing it.
LaGreca's doing, he's been killing it for a long time. He's doing great.
Yeah, I'm a LaGreca fan, not a huge Bully fan, but I'm more not of a Bully fan just because of the way he conducts himself and does stuff on the independent scene. I heard he sat in the parking lot and said he's not coming in unless I gave more money.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. It's the only time he's ever done that too.
That Ahmed Johnson did that once in NWA New Jersey for Dennis Coralluzzo, and he was just sitting in his hotel room and told Dennis Coralluzzo, unless you give me more money, I'm not coming to the arena. So Dennis Coralluzzo, the promoter, goes in front of the crowd. He was a legendarily insane guy. Coralluzzo was nuts, and he went in front of the crowd and gave the crowd Ahmed Johnson's phone number and told them like where he was staying, what room, and everything, and told them to go tell him to come to the show. He like Dennis Coralluzzo was insane. Dennis Coralluzzo
I love that.
Was a wild man.
Imagine you know like, everyone get on social media and trash this guy.
And Dennis Coralluzzo was probably at his fair share of Halloween Havocs as well, because the early ones were in Philadelphia, quite a few of them.
Well, let's get into our topic tonight, the history and maybe a little bit overall Halloween Havoc talk. So BP, let's take it away as our resident host here. I did pull up every Halloween Havoc ranked. I'm going to do like maybe the last three worst, like the worst ones, and then I'll just cut right to the best ones.
2099. I have some highlights from each of them in order. So
okay. Actually,
not the NXT ones.
Actually, it starts with 1, so I'll give you the first bunch that were popular, and then from there, I guess it's the ones that are bad. I don't know how. I have to see how they did it. Oh, okay, I'm good. I got it. All right, you're up. Okay, take it away.
So Halloween Havoc starts early on in the days of pay-per-view for Jim Crockett Promotions. Although I think by the time we get to Halloween Havoc, the sale to Turner has happened. Yeah, it had to have happened because Dusty's gone. So pay-per-view starts in earnest with Starrcade 87, but Vince really put the boots to that with Survivor Series. They try again in January with Bunkhouse Stampede. Vince really puts the boot to that with the Royal Rumble. And then Wrestle Wars around. And by the end of 1989, they already have the Great American Bash in the summer in July. So to kind of bridge the gap between that and Starrcade, because they're now going to move Starrcade to December, because that takes away from Survivor Series, which is running on Thanksgiving night, which is Starrcade's old home turf. So to separate out WWF and the NWA, they're going to make Starrcade December. So to bridge that gap, they're going to do Halloween Havoc in October, and that's going to come to us live. Halloween Havoc 89 is going to be from the Philadelphia Civic Center. Unfortunately, I didn't make any of the... There were 2 Halloween Havocs there. I didn't make either one. But I did see a Crockett show like about maybe a year before this at the Civic Center, which is wild. And Halloween Havoc at first has a lot of tag matches. And that's kind of the evolution of Jim Crockett Promotions in the WCW. It was known as
like only one tag match on that show, right?
On the one we were at?
Yeah. Just the girls match.
Just the women's tag. There was a tag match.
Technically, there's the gauntlet too.
The gauntlet, yeah, that's not really a tag.
I mean, it was like, it wasn't really a tag, but it was 3 against 1.
Yeah.
It's a gauntlet.
They've done similar things. I know they did with like Ahmed Johnson and the Nation of Domination, but yeah, Jim Crockett promotes Mid-Atlantic Wrestling, we'll just say that, was known as like the tag team territory.
Yeah.
And so at this point, they are a little more focused on singles wrestling, but these early Halloween Havocs are loaded with tag matches. And this one is just really showing off the depth of that division. And it's really showing off how much the Philadelphia crowd hated the Dynamic Dudes. Man, did they hate the Dynamic Dudes. They love the Skyscrapers. They really love the Midnight Express. And they hated the Dynamic Dudes. So
the only thing about this first pay-per-view we did watch a little bit. Sorry to cut you off. That delays back, I guess, a little bit.
Oh, you're good.
The only thing that we really I noticed watching it is like the first 2, maybe 3 Halloween Havocs. They go, especially the first one, they go really hard in the paint to not make this hokey. Like, even though it's a Halloween pay-per-view, they're trying to keep it as straight as possible until maybe the main event, and then let that be the hokiness. But even the beginning, they're like, we must say that these guys are taking it very serious in the back. Like they had to keep stressing that it's serious. Like they must have said serious 20 times.
That was them trying to differentiate themselves from the WWF. And at this point, we're at 1989. Hulkamania is in full swing. The Hogan is still riding that initial crest of Hulkamania. He just won the title back from Randy Savage at WrestleMania 5. He's feuding with Zeus. And they really tried to make it a point that is the kids show, and this is the serious pro wrestling show. And they did their best. They did their level best to really make sure that we are presenting ourselves as sport. which makes it a little weirder that at the end they have this weird electrified cage match where everybody's in the cage and it's supposedly electrified. The only one that even sells it being electrified is the Great Muta. Are we okay here, or you're good? All right, you're good. Now I can't hear you.
All
right, now I can
hear bubbling.
Gotcha.
So,
understood. So the Philadelphia, and it's weird because they are kind of two minds here. They're trying to present themselves as serious sport, and that's the influence of like the Jim Rosses of the world, the Ric Flairs. I think Ric Flair's heading up the booking committee at this point. Ole Anderson may be involved, but then you have Jim Herd who's overseeing everything, and Jim Herd is the guy who infamously wanted to put give Ric Flair an earring and call him Spartacus. He wanted the ding dongs. He wanted a team called the Hunchbacks where you couldn't pin them because their hunchback meant that their shoulders couldn't. This is why wrestling has bad ideas.
I like that idea. That's hilarious.
So
the Hunchbacks is fucking great.
The Hunchbacks. That was a Jim Herd special. The Hunchbacks. So they did have some things.
I don't hate it.
They did have some things where they did try to like kind of make the NWA a little more kid friendly. We talked last week about the Juicer, which was like a Beetlejuice gimmick, and Candyman Brad Armstrong and things like that. So to kind of cash in on like the skateboard, neon type thing, they had the Dynamic Dudes, who were these bleach blonde guys who would come out in skateboards and throw frisbees into the crowd. Only they couldn't skateboard. And of course, it's funny that this is Philadelphia and they get booed out of the building because one of the Dynamic Dudes is the franchise Shane Douglas years before he's the franchise. And the other one may be named in a lawsuit.
Yeah.
So it's the Dynamic Dudes are hated here in Philadelphia. And this is a weird stretch too, because Jim Cornette is their manager. Jim Cornette is a babyface. The Midnight Express are babyfaces. Although they're doing a slow burn where there's like a tag title tournament, and in the finals are the Midnight Express and the Dynamic Dudes, and Jim Cornette turns on the Dynamic Dudes, and everybody just cheers because nobody liked them. So it wasn't just Philadelphia, but they did get their reputation as a heel town. They love the skyscrapers here. They loved a lot of the other stuff. And then our main event is also a tag match. It is the Thunderdome cage match, is what they called it, where it is the Great Muta and Terry.
The Ding Dongs were from Bellevue.
Yeah,
that's funny.
You're still in the Ding Dongs. Horrible.
That's what I call. What are the brothers now in WWE?
The Creed brothers.
Creed brothers. I call them the Ding Dongs.
The Ding Dongs.
Yeah, because you remember when they wore the white silver singlets? That's all you seen was their freaking ding dongs.
Well, you should watch old TNA and see the Johnsons. They were basically supposed to be giant penises. They wore flesh-colored bodysuits and masks, and they were Richard and Rod Johnson. You want to know who came up with that idea?
Russo?
Bro. Yeah, of course he did. Of course he did. The Johnsons. So yeah, this is a tag match, which is supposedly in an electrified cage, which surrounds the ring. Which if I remember correctly, it's been a while since I've watched this match. I believe there's room to fight on the outside because you have people in the ring that are called the Terminators. It's a match where you can't win by pin, submission, anything like that. Basically, your corner man has to throw in the towel, and for Ric Flair and Sting, the corner man is Ole Anderson. And for Terry Funk and the Great Muta, it's both of their manager, Gary Hart, who was a legendary wrestler. All the stuff we talked about with the Freebirds and the Von Erichs back in the 80s with the cage door being slammed on Kerry's head and everything, Gary Hart booked all that. He was the booker.
Yeah.
So he was a great wrestling mind, and he was in WCW at this point. And the referee is Bruno Sammartino, which was a bit of a coup because Sammartino he's a legend in Philadelphia. One of the biggest draws ever in Philadelphia, but he's really on the outs of Vince McMahon at this point. And WCW brings him in to be the referee of their match here at the Civic Center. Well, also because it's Bruno Sammartino when he could sell tickets in Philly. He's a legend there.
Yeah.
So one of the things that happens here is very infamously, as they're bringing down the cage, they're shooting off fireworks, and the fireworks set like a burlap sack or something on the cage on fire. And there's a fire on the cage, and the Great Muta is trying to put out the fire with his mist, which is hilarious.
That's awesome.
It's incredible. And I know they had like vines and stuff hanging off the cage. Sting swung on a vine and everything. It was a great concept, but they were very inconsistent in selling that the cage was electrified, and it was interesting. It was an interesting concept, if nothing else. So that fast forwards us to 1989 when Halloween. I'm sorry, that was 1989. 1990 when the Bash comes back, and it's now in Chicago, Illinois, and Sting is the champion now. Sting has won the WCW title. Ric Flair is the heel again, and Sting is being menaced by the Black Scorpion. Sting. So, have we ever talked about the Black Scorpion on here before?
Yes.
Where it's a guy in a mask. I think this was Ole Anderson's idea. I think he was one of the main bookers at this point, although Dusty is going to be back soon. So Ole Anderson has this idea of a guy in a mask from Sting's past. Like, everything is set up. This is supposed to be the Ultimate Warrior, except the fact that the Ultimate Warrior is not coming. He's the WWF champion, and they're not going to get him out of there. So, yeah. There was an idea of making it the Angel of Death, but nobody knew who he was either. So, of course, they had to go, and in case of emergency, you break the glass and you get Ric Flair. And it wound up being Ric Flair at the end of it. And as a thank you or as a condition of becoming the Black Scorpion, he got the title back in 1991. But the Black Scorpion kidnaps a stagehand here, puts her behind in this magic illusion thing, and makes her disappear. He would do this. Like, at one Clash of the Champions, the Black Scorpion, like, took a guy out of the audience and turned him into a tiger. This is what he would do. He would just he would torment Sting with magic tricks.
So in canon, Ric Flair is a magician?
He's an accomplished magician. Ric Flair is a magician.
It turned out to be Flair, so like Flair has superpowers. Flair's like the Undertaker.
He's an illusionist. These are illusions. He was using stooges, obviously. Ric Flair is an illusionist. And there were also like 8 or 9 Black Scorpions, so it could have been one of them that was the magician.
Why is no one asking Ric Flair to do magic tricks? What a fucking missed opportunity.
Maybe it was Al Perez. Maybe Al Perez was the one that was doing magic tricks.
Yeah.
He was another very common Black Scorpion. That was one of the big takeaways. This is also the show where we get the original fake Sting. The original fake Sting was Halloween Havoc 1989. It's a bit of a weird ending to the main event, where it felt like watching it back that they were running out of pay-per-view time. Because the main event, Sting's defending the NWA title against Sid Vicious, who's part of the Four Horsemen. And Sid and Sting fight to the back. Or Sid actually just retreats to the back. And they're like, why is Sid Vicious going to the back? And a weird thing here, your commentary team is Jim Ross and Paul E. Dangerously, or Paul Heyman as he's better known now. So that's your commentary team for this show. And so Sid goes to the back, Sting's following him, and they come back and they're keeping the shot very wide, and they're shooting from behind Sting as Sting and Sid Vicious come back into the ring. Sting scoops it up for a slam, falls 1, 2, 3. Sid gets the win. But then you see Sting come out from backstage where he just went, and he's got like a rope tied around his arm. And it turns out that Sting was another horseman, Barry Windham, dressed up as Sting, and they were trying to pull a fast one and just tie up Sting in the back so a fake Sting could get pinned and Sid could win the title, and they do a quick restart.
I don't hate that booking. I'm gonna try to bring that back.
The fake Stings. They overdid it. They overdid it a bit later in the 90s. And then
I want to say this, but I know it'll be booked. So I'll just say it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna do a fake angle where someone goes in the back and then someone comes out and gets pinned and takes the loss, who would be the 2 best in the area to do it? And also, if you made them a heel comedy team, who is the 2 people?
Tommy Vex and somebody, I'm imagining.
No,
okay.
Junie and Ricky Price.
Oh yes, that would be great. But it would have to be somebing who is trying to screw one of them would have to be a heel, one of them would have to be a baby face.
Yeah.
You would have to like fight with Junie to the back and then bring out Ricky and pin him. That's how it would have to work. Except in this case, it didn't work. Those no good horsemen were foiled. Those no good horsemen
putting the fake Junie putting the fake tattoos on to screw over Ricky. Like Junie's the heel.
That would be great.
And Ricky's fighting the Lost Boys, and one Lost Boy takes Ricky to the back, and then
it's pretty much
yeah.
That's pretty much what happened in this. That's pretty much what happened in this scenario. Except it didn't work, and their ruse was, even though the bell rang, they were announcing Sid as the new world champion, and then all of a sudden the match is starting over again.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
The other thing that stood out for me on this one is one of the early WCW appearances of the Nasty Boys. They have a really good U.S. tag title match with the Steiners here. They were only in WCW at this point, or I think it might still be NWA, for a little bit, and then like this is October, I think they were there for about 4 months, and then by the end of the year they signed with WWF, and 4 months later they're the tag champions there. Boys and the Steiners had a nice brawl here. Also an interesting stylistic choice here. They had a red mat, a red canvas on the ring, and then orange ropes and black and orange turnbuckles, except that middle rope was orange with black stripes on it. Black stripes going around the rope.
I'm into it.
1991. Now we're going to get goofy. 1991 is when we get the Chamber of Horrors.
Real quick
match.
Though, is Halloween Havoc like one of the not one of the first, but like was really doing set props? Like, because I feel like Halloween, like that when I played the video game, I always liked to wrestle at Halloween Havoc because they made it look like something cool. And then like around that time, the WWE was like, oh, let's do cool set props. Like, and they got away from it. It's like everything's a screen now. And it's like, I kind of miss I like that NXT still keeps, even though it's a giant screen, they still, even if it's chintzy garbage, it's still fun that it's there.
Yeah, they still have a swing set. They still have all this other stuff. Yeah. And they still have like the ambulance hearse. Yeah, I always like that. It's a budget thing. I know WWE has done away with a lot of that for budget cuts. They only do like a big stage for WrestleMania now.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit more of a minimalism thing because they can sell more seats if they have a smaller stage. And that's important when you're packing buildings, but WCW wasn't packing buildings back then. And some of the early Halloween Havocs, like a lot of the set design was like high school theater level. It was, it was like a haunted house. It was fine. And then later they would have like the big inflatable pumpkins and stuff. But in 1991,
I love when they did In Your House.
I like
brought back the house. Yeah,
everybody loved the one Backlash where they had the claws that would go back and forth, and the King of the Ring where they had a giant throne and the game No Mercy, or one of the games you could jump off of it.
Yeah,
and so cool. The one SmackDown game you could jump off the fist. That was always really cool.
The fist was awesome.
The fist was
terrible
awesome.
Idea now when you get older. Yeah.
Not only that, but it took like 2 whole tractor trailers just to transport it to SmackDown.
You know why they got rid of all those set designs and the fist mostly?
Why is that?
As soon as they switched from standard definition to high definition television,
that's true.
They said as soon as they switched to high definition, like, oh, that fist looks like shit because you couldn't hide it anymore on standard definition.
That's true. That's true. Plus the budget thing too.
Yeah.
And so then with Halloween Havoc 1991, we're now in, I don't know, I think we might still be in Kip Fry WCW, but maybe Bill Watts has come over to this point. And Lex Luger's our champion. Ric Flair is gone. So you're still firmly in the We Want Flair era of WCW, and they really doubled down on the goofiness. 91 is when we get the Chamber of Horrors match. Do you remember this? So it's the same cage. It's that they use this cage for a few things. It's called the Thunderdome cage, where it wasn't a Hell in a Cell, but it was a cage that went around the ring like that, and the top curved in, so it was harder to climb in and out of. And they loaded it up with all these different Halloween accoutrements. And there was even like a casket in there, and there's just some guy in a full bodysuit that attacked the baby faces. And Scott Steiner gave him a tiger driver through the casket. But the way you won this match, I believe it was Sting, El Gigante, and the Steiner brothers against Cactus Jack, Abdul the Butcher, the Diamond Stud, and Vader, which is a weird team. Yeah. So midway through the match, not an electric chair, but a chair of torture comes down to the floor and almost lands right on Rick Steiner. And then after the chair of torture is down, you win by putting one of your opponents in the chair of torture and having one of your partners throw the switch that's on the outside. Except they kept cutting to the switch, and down was on and up was off, and it kept falling down into the on position. And to the point where Cactus Jack is literally standing on the cage holding it up because it keeps falling down. And he keeps looking back, like, because the whole finish is supposed to be, you think one of the Steiners is going in there. I think it was Rick. But then Rick belly to bellies Abdullah into it, and Cactus throws a switch on Abdullah. But Cactus keeps looking over because he doesn't know when to throw the switch, and the whole thing gets messed up. And he throws the switch. Abdullah just starts to shake like he's being electrocuted to death. They set off fireworks that literally set the ring on fire, and Abdullah's acting like he's dead. And then they put out the fire, and Abdullah, these people, it's so bad. It's so bad. And
them scrambling to put the fire out is the best.
And then they had all the guys that were like orderlies, but they were ghost orderlies because they had like white faces and white hair. And they're bringing out a stretcher for whoever loses. And they're all like standing on the aisle, like T-bowing, like on one knee, like waiting for somebody to get electrocuted. And they have to put out the fire. And then as they're getting Abdullah out, Abdullah just starts hitting them.
Yeah.
So that was pretty bad. That was pretty bad.
The whole time the ring's on fire, too. Abdullah's like dead, but he's like this. He's like, am I in danger?
Yeah, that happened. And this is another rerun for the in the pre-show. You get one of the weirdest nicknames in the history of WCW. There's an angle in the beginning where Dustin Rhodes, Arn Anderson, and Larry Zbyszko are the tag champions here. Dustin Rhodes is supposed to interfere, and Barry Windham was supposed to challenge. But they attack them as they're coming into the building, and they slam their car door on Barry Windham's hand. And Larry Zbyszko is after this called the Cruncher because he slammed the door, and then they said they could hear the bones in Barry Windham's hand crunch. But the Cruncher I always found to be a weird nickname.
It's crazy that they don't use that gimmick, that spot like more often in wrestling.
Yeah, nobody ever gets beat up in parking lots in NXT.
Yeah, no one ever gets their limb or their hands slammed in a car door. I think that's every 6 months they just rotate that into a storyline.
Yeah, I think you're talking about Rhea.
Their hands stuck in a door.
Rhea last night just the latest victim of the NXT parking lot, the most dangerous place in professional wrestling.
It is. That's why we were scared going back to our car.
Yeah, that's true. You got to be careful. So this is also the debut of Ravishing Rick Rude in WCW, or the return, I should say. Well, for WCW, it is more of a debut, and he's the WCW Halloween Phantom, except you can see the mustache right through his mask, and he beats Tom Zink with the Rude Awakening neckbreaker. But it literally comes out later, takes the mask off, and he's joining forces with Paulie Dangerously, and this is the beginning of the formation of the Dangerous Alliance, which is an amazing tag team.
Yes.
So by 1992, we are firmly in Bill Watts territory, and this is the birth of something they still use on Halloween Havoc: spin the wheel, make the deal. The big rivalry here is Sting and Jake the Snake Roberts, who jumped from WWF a few months earlier. The whole storyline there is they had this big house show in Baltimore, and it was supposed to be Sting against Vader, but Sting comes in and Jake comes in and DDTs Sting on a chair, and he's out. So they have a random drawing of all the baby faces to see who's going to wrestle Vader that night. Ron Simmons wins the drawing and wins the WCW title. And it's weird here because Ron Simmons is #1 contender for that WCW title, and his first pay-per-view title defense is the Barbarian. Nothing against the Barbarian, but he was not really seen as a guy who was getting a super huge push at this point. Vader would have seemed like a better choice. Rick Rude would have seemed like a better choice, but Rick Rude is also actually going to be challenging Masahiro Chono for the NWA title, but Rude's also the US champion. So instead of wrestling twice, they're going to let him pick somebody to defend the US title for him, and they picked Vader. And Terry Gordy didn't show up, so Steve Austin is teaming with Dr. Death Steve Williams for some reason. Lots of substitutions on this card.
Who was drunk when they booked this card?
Bill Watts. Bill Watts was drunk. I don't know if he was drunk, but he was there's a lot of, they would do that a lot because if somebody wasn't going to show up, they weren't going to pay somebody else to do it. So Bill Watts has always big on cutting the budget, and he wouldn't take anything. So if you, I'm not going to come, I need more money. Oh, don't come. See you later. Or don't see you later. You're out. Yeah. So Bill Watts was very much a my way or the highway guy. And stuff like that would happen quite a bit under his tenure, where you just have substitutions and people coming, people going. Infamously, he broke up the Hollywood Blondes. Or maybe this is he did something with Brian Pillman, because I think this is pre-Hollywood Blondes, but he wanted Brian Pillman to take a pay cut or else he was going to stop his push. And Brian Pillman very famously said, well, it'll be the highest paid opening match job in the history of wrestling, because he wasn't going to give up his guaranteed contract. Yeah, but by 1993, Bill Watts is gone. Eric Bischoff is now in control of WCW. And it's pre-Hulk Hogan. This is a sweet spot for WCW for me. Like, Bischoff starting to make a few changes, but Hulk Hogan hasn't totally come in the Hulk Hogan all over it. So at this point, Vader is still your champion. Cactus Jack is his big rival. He brutalized him on WCW Saturday Night. They did a horrible angle where Cactus Jack had amnesia and he was lost in Cleveland and didn't know who he was. But I think they later said he was faking it just to kind of get a match with Vader. And this is the big blow-off match. This is, I want to say this is the first main event, the only WCW pay-per-view Mick Foley main evented. But it's Cactus Jack and Vader, spin the wheel, make the deal. In 92, it was with Sting and Jake Roberts. It was a coal miner's glove match, which is a weird stipulation. And a lot of people think Bill Watts didn't gimmick the wheel. They just rode with whatever they were going to get. Although I've also heard stories that that's not true. But in this one, they went with a Texas death match, and Vader beats Cactus Jack when Harley Race shocks Cactus with a cattle prod, which is a weird callback because in Foley's book, he says that Race did used to carry around like a stun gun, like a taser. And that sometimes, because Vader was infamously unhygienic, and sometimes they said he would threaten Vader with the cattle prod and make him take a shower. So he just happened to have.
Here's your question. Did Mick really take a cattle prod right then and there?
Did who?
Did you think Mick took a cattle prod? Like, do you think when he hit it with it, he legit hit him with it?
Probably not. They usually tape over the prodding part. Although sometimes it sneaks through. Like, I think they said with the Mountie, his accidentally got somebody a few times. Or maybe it was Goldberg and Scott Hall. But somebody who took one, like, they usually gimmick it up with tape. And I guess the tape wore off a little bit and they actually got shot.
I wonder if Mick's just like, well, fuck, it just hit me. I feel like Mick was like Johnny Knoxville. I was like,
Mick,
okay, let's see what happens.
Mick did say, and this is a match where he did admit that he was trying to commit insurance fraud, where he told Vader there's a spot where he's on Vader's back, like he gets him in a sleeper hold, and Vader just jumps back and lands on him, and he told Vader to go full force because he wanted to say he had like a career-ending injury and get some kind of insurance settlement or something, but he was okay afterward.
Yeah,
and Cactus was still around for about a year after this, but yeah, but by 1994's Halloween Havoc. Well, 93, we had some other stuff. We had a very quick tag title change. Literally the night before on WCW Saturday Night, Too Cold Scorpio and Marcus Bagwell won the tag titles, and they lost them right back to the Nasty Boys. You had the weird WCW International title at this point when you had a Rick Rude, Ric Flair match, and they started the and it didn't ever finish, but they started the burn to the Sid babyface turn here. Because Colonel Parker's his manager, and he does like some kind of weird distraction where he costs Sid a match with Sting. And it was supposed to start a thing where Sid was going to turn babyface and beat Vader for the WCW title at Starrcade. However, 4 days after this Halloween Havoc is when they were on a tour of the UK, and Sid and Arn Anderson infamously have their fight where they both get stabbed with scissors. Arn Anderson almost dies. They both get fired. Arn comes back and Sid doesn't come back for a long time. And well, now we don't have a main event for Starrcade. Who can we get to save us? Oh, break that glass. Ric Flair's here.
Ric Flair, baby.
Ric Flair. Although by 1994, that doesn't work for us anymore, brother, because the main event is a career versus career match for the WCW title in a steel cage with Mr. T as the referee, Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair. I know one of the storylines coming in was that they were showing like video of Ric Flair meeting with Mr. T, like he was paying him off. And Hogan also had the guy in a mask that was like hitting him in the knee with a pipe. And he was like always going after Hogan. So they have a lot of stuff going on. And there's so many bells and whistles here. There's so much gaga in this match. Mr. T gets
Hulk Hogan.
Sherry tries to climb in the cage because she's managing Ric Flair, and Jimmy Hart like rips her dress off. And then, and this is how much of a badass Sherry Martel was. Sherry does a high cross body off the top of the cage in her underwear on the Hulk Hogan. That's how much of a badass Sherry Martel is. And of course, with all the Gaga remaining, Ric Flair still loses because it's Flair against Hogan. The cage comes up, but the Masked Man strikes, and it's Brother Brute Eye. It's Hogan's best friend turning his back on him. And then we also get the debut of Earthquake here. You get another quick tag title match. Paul Roman and Paul Orndorff beat the Patriot and Bagwell. And let's just fast forward here because I know we got an AEW show coming up.
Yeah.
So we'll step on the gas here. Really, there's only a few left in the WCW era. 1995 is really mainly known for one thing: the monster truck match, where they had the two monster trucks welded together, the Hogan truck and the Giant truck, and then Hogan wins, and then they get into a fight, and the Giant falls off the roof of Cobo Hall, and they act like they do the whole "this wasn't part of the show" thing. I think they had some guy who was like a special announcer for that, who was like a motorsports guy, and he's like, "That Tony, that wasn't supposed to happen to Shivani." Like they were acting like, "No, this is real. The Giant just really fell off the roof of a fucking building."
But Hogan's acting is so bad.
It is, and
brother.
One of the best bad ideas I heard is that they said they wanted the Giant to come back with like a fish sticking out of his trunks, like he fell in the water or something, even though the water is like eight blocks away. Although, and one of the cool things on the undercard here is that Sabu, this is like I think the only pay-per-view appearance in WCW ever for Sabu. He beats Mr. JL, who's Jerry Lynn under a mask, and then the Sheik, the original Sheik, who was the most legendary figure in the history of Detroit wrestling, is in Sabu's corner. He's Sabu's uncle. And then for no reason, he just throws a fireball at Mr. JL afterward.
Yeah, this is like early Nitro too. Because I remember I started watching Nitro like from the beginning of Nitro on. And this is one of like the very first weeks or months of Nitro leads into this Halloween Havoc.
Yeah. It was the second pay-per-view of the Nitro. It was Fall Brawl 95 and then this one.
Yes. Yep.
And they do a turn in the end where the Giant wins by DQ, but they say because Jimmy Hart turns on Hogan, and Jimmy Hart wrote up the contract and he said, titles can change hands by DQ, baby. But then it gets held up for World War III, and Randy Savage ends up with a WCW title. But by the time we get to 1996, it is now NWO in full swing. We get Hogan Savage. Hogan comes out with hair. He comes out with like spiky blonde hair. It was his wig from the Three Ninjas movie he was in. So there's a lot of NWO chicanery there. Roddy Piper shows up at the end. You get a great cruiserweight match here with Dean Malenko and Rey Mysterio. 1997, you get an even better cruiserweight match, probably the best match in Halloween Havoc history. Mask versus title. Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero had just one of the best matches WCW ever did. You also have Age in the Cage with Hogan and Piper.
Matches of like now in today's standards of the crazy shit people do flip wise, people probably wouldn't give it that respect, but like Eddie and Ray had a banger cruiserweight match. Like that was
people
Lucha
say that
Libre as honest.
People say that, but Ray was pretty damn good back then. Ray could move. Ray could fly.
Yeah.
But back then a lot of the stuff they do now, they would never allow you to do back then because it looks too choreographed.
Mm-hmm.
It looked way too choreographed. Then it would have been like people would have never allowed it to happen back in the day. So we did have a question in the chat. 95 was Hogan's first Halloween Havoc, but 94 was Hogan's first Halloween Havoc. Bash of the Beach was his first pay-per-view. Yes. Yeah. So this was the blow off to the Flair. That was the blow off to the Hogan Flair. That was actually their third match. And then because he lost, Flair was supposed to retire, but he was only gone for like a few months. 1998, we have the infamous Hogan Warrior 2. Like even Ultimate Warrior has said they basically brought me back and paid me all this money so Hogan could beat me, which is essentially what they did, and it's an infamously horrible match. Hogan is having a lot of trouble throwing a fireball. His nephew comes in and interferes, and it goes on so long that the DDP Goldberg main event for the WCW title gets cut off, and the people who paid money for the pay-per-view don't get to see it, so they had to show it for free on Nitro the next night. And that Nitro where they did that was in 1998 was the last time Nitro ever beat Raw in the ratings ever.
Wow.
That was the end. 99, we're really starting to hit the downswing. Sting is a heel. It's the original laydown finish where Hulk Hogan comes out in street clothes to wrestle Sting and just lays down for him. Oh, guess who just got the book at this point? Guess who's now the booker of the bro. And we also have just a lot of nuttiness going. And then the final WCW Halloween Havoc is in 2000. A lot of rumors are going around at this point that the company is for sale. At first, they were saying SFX was going to buy it, and then Mandalay Bay Entertainment, Bischoff was putting together a consortium. Obviously, it eventually gets sold to WWF for pennies on the dollar. There's a lot of handicap matches in the show. The main event is Goldberg against Chronic. You have Jim Duggan is a heel now, and he's with Team Canada, and they're against General Hugh G. Rection of the Misfits in Action. Look at you giggling. That's horrible. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And if you want to give the ultimate of that, there is a first blood DNA match on this show because Stacy Keibler is pregnant, and her boyfriend David Flair doesn't know if the baby is his, and he thinks the baby is Buff Bagwell's. So they have a first blood match where the winner gets to take the loser's blood so they can do a DNA test.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, like,
why wouldn't you
just that just helps either guy? Like, it proves that you're like.
Well, I think David Flair wanted to be the father, and there were you would never guess who Vince Russo thought should be the father at one point.
A black guy,
Vince Russo.
Oh,
and at one point,
it would have been funny if she had like, because at that time in the 90s, it would have been so Jerry Springer. Yeah. The baby comes out like, it's Asian.
At one point, they thought it was
Great Muta comes out.
That would be wonderful. At one point, they said it was going to be Ric Flair, possibly.
Break glasses in case of emergency.
Of course, because you have to do things in horrible taste in pro wrestling. They did a miscarriage angle. They did it, and they did a whole thing where she was faking the pregnancy the whole time.
Yeah, it'd been funny if Ric Flair was. I'm banging your kid. I'm banging my kid's girlfriend. Woo!
Well, it's no worse than when they wanted to say that Vince McMahon was the father of Stephanie McMahon's baby.
That was
and Stephanie said, absolutely not. No, not happening. And you can't put my wedding on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So that's history of the
you can date rape me and have me get married that way though.
Yeah, that's fine. So then that's the last of Halloween Havoc for 20 years until they bring the concept back for NXT in 2020, and it's become an annual tradition ever since.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest, some of them hit pretty well, some of them have been misses. I think, like, all right, so going back and watching some old NXT, like your old pay-per-views, and NXT, does this year's NXT pay-per-view make it to a top 10
of Halloween Havocs?
Yeah.
Maybe, because there were only 12 original ones, and some of them were awful.
Yeah.
So it's quite possible, just because
I think
there were some really bad ones. There were some really bad ones.
Overall, what do you think the match of the night was?
For the one that just happened?
Yeah.
Stephanie.
It's either the women's tag or the tables, ladders, and stairs match. The first two matches I thought were the best two matches.
Yeah, I would say women's match was 1. Number 2 was Oba and
that was the tables, ladders, and stairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know, man. I also really enjoyed the Ridge Holland one, man. The pumpkins was going.
That was
also
that
for
was
that
just
being on
Ethan.
Also for that being on Ethan Page's head too.
Yeah, that
I don't know, just cracked me up.
The pumpkin thing was a complete audible because they knew they were going to lose.
Well, I knew it was an audible, but it was just like everybody was so hyped for that. Like, I really just like the energy just jumped for that whole match.
Ethan
like
Page
having them move back and forth between like the ring and the like really all over the place. They were all over the place. It was, I don't know, it was awesome.
Yeah.
The whole thing was awesome.
So I before we end out here, I know Dynamite is starting very, very soon. So I'm gonna go through what they have listed at ringsidelogic.com. We'll give them some love here. The top 10 Halloween Havoc matches. Number 10, Sting and Ric Flair versus Arn Anderson, Brian Pillman, 95.
Oh, the infamous turn. The infamous turn. That's when that set up the Horsemen. Yes.
Number 9 is going to be in 93, the Texas Death Match, Vader versus Cactus Jack.
Vader in 1993 is hard to miss. He doesn't miss back then. 92,
Yep.
that era of Vader. If you've only ever seen Vader in WWF, you don't know Vader. That is the real Vader.
That was my problem for a while. I had to go back and relearn. 8 is going to be the Thunderdome match with Sting, Flair, Funk, and the Great Muta in 89.
That's a curiosity. It's not as good as you would think with the people involved because of all the gimmickry.
93 television championship match is going to be number 7, Lord Steven Regal versus the British Bulldog.
If you were familiar with WCW at the time, you knew the finisher the minute it was going to happen.
Yeah. 96, we're going to get a Cruiserweight championship for number 6, Rey Mysterio Jr. and Dean Malenko.
As good as it gets.
Number 5 is going to be a Las Vegas sudden death match, Diamond Dallas Page versus Macho Man Randy Savage.
They had wonderful chemistry. They were both two guys who had the same philosophy of really liking to script out their matches move for move.
Yeah. 90 is going to get a U.S. tag team match, the Steiner Bros versus the Nasty Boys.
It's a hard-hitting one. Those are two teams that like to beat up their opponents, so they didn't care how much they were giving one another. That was a good one.
98, we're going to get a World Heavyweight Championship, Goldberg versus Diamond Dallas Page, number 3.
Maybe Goldberg's best match ever.
Yeah. DDP is so underrated. 94, we're going to get a career versus career cage match, Flair and Hogan.
That match was not good.
Number 2 it got. And number 1,
of course,
Mass versus title, 97, Mysterio, Ray versus Eddie. And then I got some Halloween pay-per-views. We got at number the number 12 would be Halloween Havoc 2000, the worst of main event. Number 11, Halloween Havoc 99, was a Vince Russo creative mess. This is from thesportster.com. Number 10 is going to be Halloween Havoc 98, a poor show salvaged by a strong main event.
You notice that the later, like how bad WCW got by the end. It's just the worst, the last 3 are the worst 3. And they just get worse every year.
9 is going to be the main event match at Halloween Havoc 92. We're all let down. So it's going to be the spin, I believe the First Blood. Number 8 is going to be the Yeti, debuted famously bad main event at Halloween Havoc 95.
You got to say it right. It's the Yeti.
Number 7 is going to be Halloween Havoc 91, featured a terrible Chamber of Horror match.
So the thing with the Yeti is the Yeti started as a mummy, and then somehow 2 months later was a ninja, and I don't know how that happened.
Number 6, the first Halloween Havoc in 98 was a solid start. So
89.
89 was a solid start. So they're going 89. Number 5 was Halloween Havoc 90, was a slow but solid event.
Yeah.
Sorry, my computer's lagging. 4, great main event, saved Halloween Havoc 94.
I don't think that main event was that great. Hogan and Flair was not that great.
Number 3, Halloween Havoc 97, featured an all-time classic.
Yes.
Number 2, Halloween Havoc 96 was a consistent show.
WCW was very hot at that point. That's when the NWO was just firing.
What do you think the best pay-per-view is?
Well, there's only one left. 93.
93, Halloween Havoc, the best edition of the show's history.
Yeah, top to bottom, it probably is. It's not perfect. There's a weird Steamboat Paul Orndorff match. There's the opening match is just like a throwaway 6-man tag, but Regal and Bulldog is good, even though the finish is very predictable. Cactus and Vader are perfect opponents for one another. Rude and Flair are very good opponents for one another. It's a strong show up and down.
So, what do you got to plug, Brian, so we can get out of here and get everybody over to AEW?
Just real quick, PPW Entertainment on social media. We are going to be back on WILN this weekend with High Voltage if you're local and you get WILN. I do not, but I know some places do around here. And then 1 week from Saturday, we will be back in Slatington at the Expo Center with PPW Engage, Facade and Brad Baylor for the PPW heavyweight title, Danny Moe and Zoe Cannon in her debut getting the title shot. People are hype. Like a lot of people that I know, I've never worked with Zoe Cannon before, but a lot of people I know, Tom Mitchell, and a lot of people really vouch for. A lot of the people that hang out at Three Legacies Wrestling are really excited to see her spreading her wings and arriving at PPW. Sammy Chaos is going to be in action. Going to be a lot of fun stuff there at PPW Engage on the 9th.
Heck yeah.
All right, so I got a show coming up on Saturday. I'll be doing commentary for. It's gonna be Rumble for the Youth, Saturday, November 2nd, at the Bethlehem Boys and Girls Club. So a lot of cool matches there. We get to see some Dan Champion and Smash and Burn versus the Lost Boys, Mastodon versus Xander, Tommy Vex versus Matt Quay, and many more. I'll be on the call for that show,
and it's for a good cause too. It's going to benefit. I believe the Boys and Girls Club of Bethlehem, right?
Yeah. And then I will be with BP, probably not working, just hanging out at PPW on the 9th. New Era Pro Wrestling returns on the 16th for Heist at the Falcons Nest, I believe. I hope that's right.
The Money Heist.
I believe Money Heist. I love that show. I think it's just the Heist. I believe it's just the Heist.
It might
Money
just
Heist
be the Heist. I think it might have the first time.
Yeah. And then I will be at Black Diamond once again on the 8th. Friday night, hosting a little bit of trivia with Lilly as we do a little bit of a benefit trivia for someone local going through some stuff and medical stuff that they need help with. And we're gonna do, one of their favorite things is Harry Potter, so we're gonna do a Harry Potter trivia for them. And
another thing to throw out,
speaking of people who need some help, Chris Bay right now is going through it. He has a GoFundMe. Also, if maybe you want to help out but have something more physical, and the GoFundMe is just like a donation type thing, Pro Wrestling Tees just put a brand new "We Love Chris Bay" t-shirt with 100% of the proceeds going to Chris Bay, so you can help out and get a piece of merchandise to really show your love for the guy. I know I'm buying one on Friday, so go support Chris Bay, grab that t-shirt, go to the GoFundMe. The guy's, honestly, I've worked with him now 3 times. He's a gem every single time. Love the guy to death. He's always putting new music out on his Spotify too, New Music Friday. Just support the guy. He's a great human, and show him some love. Go ahead, BB.
One other thing, it's a little farther out. I don't know if I'm working or if I'm just going to be there as a fan, but while you're at New Era Pro Wrestling, I'll be in downtown Pottsville at Pilgrim Brewing Brews Giving.
Yeah, we're doing wrestling. Definitely go support that as well.
I don't know if they're going to be filming the wrestling there. If they are, I might be commentating it. I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I would let you borrow my commentary stuff, but I would be using it
that'll be fine. That'll be fine.
Tomorrow is Halloween. We have our first Truth Behind Illusion drops tomorrow.
Speaking of sets, they have a little bit of a Halloween Havoc set tonight on AEW.
It's Fright Night Dynamite.
Yeah, they have graves and stuff. They're very, very crowd heavy with the dress up tonight too. I love to see that.
Is one of the graves for Rampage?
I hope so. I didn't notice.
That show's gone. I don't have it on.
Yeah, they're gonna be super cosplay heavy tonight, so it'll be fun. All right, so that'll do it for us. Like I said, new content drops tomorrow for Truth Behind Illusion. Sam Hain, excited for everyone to check that out.
Perfect day for it
as well. And I know there's another piece of content that's supposed to be dropping soon. It was supposed to drop way before this. We didn't get it, but a snack review is coming with myself, Lily, and her 2 amazing daughters. So that will be dropping as well. Tons and tons of content. Like I said, we'll be doing more post-show and covering more modern wrestling because a lot of people really like that. So we'll just try to see what happens here. We're gonna see how the channel goes. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like, share, subscribe. If you're listening to this on the audio platform, take a screenshot of it. Tell us you've been listening to us. Tag us using either hashtag tornado tag or ABJ ABJ podcast. So that'll do it for us. We'll see you guys next time. We'll be back next Tuesday at 7:00 for Jesse the Body Ventura.
It's the election. It's not going to be rigged monsoon.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to let you go.